moves to climb the ladder. Knocks off PBA Tour titleist Chris Loschetter. 223 to 200. Player of the Year race. The discussion, Jason Belmonte. Third in prize money. First in average, more than 234 on average this year. First in points. Pete Weber's never won the PBA Player of the Year honor. Sean Rash is the reigning POY. Jason Belmonte, 2008-2009 PBA Rookie of the Year, taking the PBA by storm since his first season in the States. Two-handed delivery has won him fans the world over, as well as helped him to numerous titles on the world stage. 15 different countries, he tells us, he's won in his great career so far. Followed up a strong 2011-2012, winning 3 times and finished second in the Player of the Year voting. Last season, Jason Belmonte. Great numbers, as we talked about, and he won the Masters. Got to be the leading candidate to win Player of the Year.
I don't know about the leading candidate, but he can sure make a big statement by winning today. Remember, he's the #1 seed. That gives him 2 titles, and that will pretty much put him at the top of the list in every statistical category except for earnings.
Next is Chris Barnes to take on McClellan. USA, Canada, head-to-head in Milwaukee. Our bowling event is Great Bowling City, the Miller High Life Open here at Bolero Lanes. 1966, and we are back in 2013. PBA making its debut on CBS Sports Network, and this Geico Summer Swing as the stepladder bracket continues. Chris Barnes, Dan McClellan, next match up. Dan had never won on TV before today, and he swept through the first 2 matches pretty easily.
Yeah, and he's got a head of steam now, but he's going to need it against All-World Chris Barnes, future Hall of Famer.
Double wood could have been really tough. 2-8.
Yeah, with the 10-pin standing, it's just about a guaranteed open frame. Now it's just a moderately difficult spare.
The #2 player is a 14-time PBA Tour champion, former PBA Rookie and Player of the Year and Triple Crown winner from Double Oak, Texas, Chris Barnes.
Just outside the Dallas Metroplex.
I'm sorry, they said Chris Barnes. What's Ricky Fowler doing on the television? Is that?
Give our great Chris. There we go.
Those are Ricky Fowler's pants.
Blue pants. Yeah.
I got to be honest with you, though. When you're as good as Chris Barnes, you could bowl in a gunny sack. Who's going to tell you? Who's going to tell you otherwise? No surprise that Chris Barnes bowled well in this oil pattern. He's a thinking man's man out here on the tour, and a wonderful tactician.
Stay. All right. Throw a couple a little better now.
Avoids the disaster here with an open frame, takes out his spare ball and loses his footing just a bit. But it's a spare nonetheless.
The safe sign. Ryan and Troy, his twin sons, who just turned 11 a few weeks back, playing a baseball tournament this weekend in the Dallas area. Speaking of baseball. That comes high, and there's a 9.
How did that not carry?
Spares are okay until you figure them out. You know, Dan McClellan's got a nice advantage because he's seeing the transition in front of him after winning back-to-back matches. Chris Barnes is basically coming on fresh, even though he had practice. Doesn't really feel the tendencies of the oil pattern, how they've broken down yet.
There's his cover. First title all the way back to 1999, the flagship open in Erie, Pennsylvania. Is now won 14 times. One of 3 players with Tommy Jones and Mike Albee to win both PBA Player and PBA Rookie of the Year in the same career. Just something. The accolades, accomplishments for Chris, both in the States and internationally. Speaking of international flavor, McClellan, double wood 2-8.
Back-to-back 2-8s. Going with a little more ball speed to try to hold line, and he's going light. Flirt with that too many times, and the 10-pin's going to be with it. Just gives it a little bit more room, it looks like, right there. And again, a little wider target on the bear of an oil pattern. Could spell disaster.
Covers and does have his spare to keep things close early. Other finishers at the Lucas Oil PBA Bear Open. Legendary Pete Weber, 37 titles just out of the top 5. Missy Parkin, top female finisher.
Ryan Kretzer, nice showing there at 9th. I know that he just fell out of the top 5 in that position around game. And Ryan Schaefer, the Bulldog. TJ, one of my favorite players. Love to watch Dom Barrett.
Missy Parkin, the only woman in the field. 1, 2, 8, 10. A washout, and that's tough.
Well, he made a ball change. He goes to the same ball, but just a different layout. And again, just a little right at target.
Picks it up.
Yes, sir. Again, you know, Dan McClellan just came off a 223 game, and all of a sudden now he can't hit the pocket again. That's how quickly this oil pattern can change and how demanding it is. You see him going straight the first couple of games. He may have to move all the way to the 4th or 5th arrow and change his line completely if this trend continues.
Major adjustment necessary. Gotta be.
Barnes went through the nose, first 2 frames. Guarantee he's moving in.
5-pin lead, 3rd frame, high again. 4-pin.
That's clear.
Take a look at this ball reaction now. I did move in and a little closer to the pocket, but I want you to watch this. Chris Barnes has a tremendously high ball roll, and this ball just kind of slowed down or stopped right in front of the head pin. And it was probably a good thing, because if it continued, it could have been a big 4. Very heavy roller, hand up the back. And that's been his mantra pretty much throughout his entire career. He has tried to create a little bit more axis rotation, or axis tilt, I should say, the last couple of years to keep up with the guys that really create a lot of room on the lane. Throwing a mass eruption. You'll see Chris at times kind of take his hand position and tilt it just a little bit inside to try to create a little bit more spin.
One, 2, 4. Missing a head pin. What's going on here, Randy?
The bear is awake, and the bear's hungry. Take a look at this right here. What a great form, great athlete Chris Barnes is. And that's not a bad shot. This was an educated guess of moving there, throwing, standing in a certain spot and looking at a certain target. It just didn't work.
He's an excellent high school basketball player, a guard growing up in Kansas. Before he went to Wichita State, star bowler there. All-American national champion. 3 major titles in his PBA career. PBA World, TOC, US Open, just missing that Masters. A triple crowner. Dan McClellan's never won on the PBA Tour. Never won a TV match until today. He's right in this one with Chris Barnes. No help on number 10.
Yeah, but it was closer to the pocket. You can see how much different these two players are playing this bear oil pattern. You better be a good spare shooter especially on this oil pattern. And if you want to win on this tour, you better be a good spare shooter, because if you can't strike, you better be making spares. That's what keeps you in it on a tough, demanding oil pattern. Great lesson for everyone watching at home. Bowling tournaments, they put out a tougher shot than you're used to. Practice shooting spares, because if you can't hit the pocket, you better have something else to fall back on.
Perfect shot. What he's been looking for in that 1-3 pocket.
Take a look at where Chris Barnes is playing. That ball went right in between the 4th and 5th arrow. How about Dan McClellan? In between 2nd and 3rd arrow. Good 10 boards apart from one another.
Bingo. What he's been waiting for.
Didn't take long.
Just half the match, Chris.
Pretty good shot here. That ball faces up nicely. Might have been just another micro adjustment on that right lane, but this left lane, last shot, last time, Barnes whiffed the head pin. He went through the nose in the 2nd, whiffed the head pin in the 4th. Really close. I honestly think that Chris Barnes thrives on an oil pattern like this, a U.S. Open style oil pattern, because it turns into a thinking man's game. You can't necessarily get out there and overpower it. You got to have a lot of tricks and play a lot of different angles. Chris Barnes can do that, but there's no freebies on this oil pattern.
There's the 4, there's the spare for Chris Masters, who did win the U.S. Open in 2005 in North Brunswick, New Jersey, when I called that. Speaking of U.S. Open success, he'd love success here in Milwaukee today as well against Dan McClellan.
Geico PBA Summer Swing on CBS Sports Network.
Why, thank you, Chris. And at Bolero Lanes Historic Center here in Milwaukee. Lucas Oil PBA Bear Open on CBS Sports Network. PBA making its debut on our air during the Geico Summer Swing. We are thrilled to have the world's best bowlers in action. Dan McClellan would like to join that list, could become the first ever Canadian-born bowler to win on the PBA Tour. Got to get by some great names first. Down 2. Big strike takes the lead.
Yeah, really great shot out of the commercial break for Dan McClellan, working on a strike, knowing he's going against one of the greatest players of all time, future Hall of Famer. He steps up and says, you know what? I want to make that Hall someday as well. Another strike here in the 7th. He will increase his lead to 18 pins over Chris Barnes.
Doesn't come there, though.
Come on, Dan.
Bad shot. Not that bad of a result, only leaving the 2-7. 10 pin gets out of there. That's the good news. Bad news, baby split on the left side. The object is to cover both pins with the bowling ball.
Does that, has a spare.
Well, his spare game has been solid all day.
But that does not win you your first career PBA Tour title.
It could on this oil pattern. Dan has not had an open frame unless you count the second ball in the 10th frame when he left the 4-9 split. He's made everything.
Beat Dan once already in the positioning round. All 10 down in the pit. Perfect shot for Chris Barnes. Head to PBA.com to find out how you can join the growing number of fans following the PBA on Twitter. Get tweets featuring PBA Tour news and tournament updates, and find information about linking to the Twitter accounts of your favorite PBA stars. Simply click the Twitter link on the PBA.com homepage to get started.
I'm on Twitter, Dave. You?
I know you are. You've got a lot more followers than I do.
Are you
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're tweeting. Chris Barnes looking for his first double of the match. Can regain the lead
This is the time to get hot.
See ya.
No, sir. Wow. Right.
Bad shot on the left lane.
2,
Has not
4, 8.
has not figured out the left lane.
He do it.
The good news is, since he's working on a strike, he doesn't lose count. The bad news is, even if he makes the spare, he'll still be trailing.
All 4.
Just kicks out the 8 covers and has a spare to stay clean.
Huge break there.
These are still the first one good.
Something off the wall, takes the 8 out. Nice break. Keeps him clean. No open frames for either player.
Response for Dan the Man, yeah.
You see a player pop up and out of it that quick, it's usually a pretty good sign. And that couldn't have been thrown any better for Danny Mac. What a brilliant shot, setting up the foundation frame, the 9th frame for him. He knows that Barnes is having trouble on the left lane, and bad news for Chris Barnes. Barnes has to finish on the left lane. Dan Mac gets to finish his game on the right lane.
Four-pin stands. Dad grew up in Windsor, Ontario, just outside Detroit, across the border. Dad ran a pro shop in Windsor. Twin brother and sister got all the free bowling time they wanted off hours at that center. And built a foundation for his absolute love of the game.
Well, I have a fairly good idea of what Chris Barnes can do on the right lane. He struck the last 2 times on the right lane, but the left lane has been the enigma for Chris Barnes thus far.
Here's a breakdown.
0 for left lane.
Strikes have come in the 5th and 7th frames on the right. Last time out on the left, the 6-pin count. But did pick up the spare. Needs it. Got it.
Locked in on the right lane. Chose to finish on the left lane. Remember, he got choice of starting lane because of being the higher seed. He chose to finish this game on the left lane. 2 strikes and 7 pins, and he will shut out Dan McClellan and end his bid for capturing his first ever career title.
That's an adjustment, and that's a nice fix.
Well, it couldn't have come at a better time, too, because neither player is displaying any type of strike power or offense, and Chris Barnes needed it. He was trailing. Now he takes the lead, and now he has a chance to shut out Dan McClellan. Maybe he knew what he was doing, picking that left lane to finish on. Who might have questioned Chris Barnes?
14-time winner, and as you said, tactician and technician. Boy, does he understand the game as well as anyone.
2 really great adjectives to describe the man in blue.
Starting left.
You want to talk about a comeback. Does Chris Barnes have any maple moxie or what?
Come on now. One more good one.
All he needs is 7, and he just went from not being able to touch or sniff the pocket on the left lane to just throwing 20 pins back in the last 2 shots.
Sign of a true champion. The big move to the left certainly helped. Boy, he was whiffing the head pin earlier in this match. That's an incredible turnaround.
And what's crazy is he was missing the head pin, so he moved left. Most people would think, well, you would move right.
There's a tactician again.
That's a little left.
Oh, it's very left.
Cow.
Just needed 7, gets 9, leaves the 5. He takes the win.
Boy, if that doesn't hit the head pin, we've got some interesting things happening in the 10th frame.
Wasn't going to be a washout.
Instead, Dan McClellan, nice run. He's going to fall short to Chris Barnes, and Barnes is going to move on to face Jason Belmonte.
It's a win for Chris Barnes, 54th of his career on TV. And he will bowl for his 15th career PBA title when we come back. Jason Belmonte of Australia awaits